Okay, so good day. Our topic for today is about data management. Okay, so specifically, this is introduction to statistics. It's a review, okay, to the lesson that you have discussed during your uh, senior high school in statistics and probability. Okay, so as we recall the idea of the statistics, we can view the application of this field, of this subject, to different situations that we are encountering right now, especially when it comes to this pandemic, COVID-19 outbreak. So as you can see here in this graph, it compares all the number of cases, active cases of every Southeast Asian countries during the time from 2020 to 2021 of March. And aside from this, we can also view the update of the number of cases, the recovered patients, and those who are experienced death during the time that they have COVID-19. Okay, so we have the data that we can see during this COVID-19. So as you can see here, in statistics, it's very significant uh, to the situation that we are encountering right now. And even from the previous events that we have, and also different fields that we have also. Okay, so statistics is important not only just by today but also during the um, previous years. And also, aside from the data that we might observe, we can also see the predictions. Okay, one of this example is the UP and Ayala Analytics Group presented their um, predictions on what will happen if the government of the Philippines will not implement the lockdown. Okay, specifically the during the time the enhanced community quarantine, the modified community quarantine, and so on. Okay, so now let's define formally statistics. Statistics is a branch of applied mathematics which deals with the collection, organization, presentation, analysis, and interpretation of data. Okay, so as you can see here, we have collection, organization, presentation, analysis, and interpretation of the data. Uh, we can have an acronym of COPI, and collection, organization, presentation, A, analysis, and interpretation. So with that, we can come up with a decision. Okay, with our data that we have gathered from a certain situation or from a certain uh, people, then we can come up with a decision based on the given problem and its data that is presented. Okay, so let's go back and to the history. Okay, when it comes to the statistics. So statistics, the word statistics come from the word state. Okay, it's a Latin word status or Italian word statista, which means state, political state, or government. Okay, so before they use statistics for the government. Okay, during that time, they collect information about their land, their agriculture, commerce, populations of their states to assess their military potential, their wealth, taxation, and other aspects of the government. Okay, so though before we are using statistics for the government, but in our time, in our generation, there are lots of application of this to different fields. not only in education, but also when it comes to business, when it comes to science, and so on. Now, we have different terms here that we might encounter during when we are discussing stats. Okay, statistics. So, first one of this is the data. Data are facts and figures that are presented and analyzed, a collection of facts from experiments, observations, sample surveys, and censuses, and administrative reporting systems. So, as you can see here, there's a note. Data confidentiality is important in a data collection activity. Why? Why is it? Why is the data very confidential? Okay, so if we're going to review the laws that we have here in the Philippines, we have a Republic Act 10173, okay, or known as the Data Privacy Act. Okay, so with that, we should be careful of all the data that we have collected because we are responsible, okay, of that data. So they say that when we collect a data, we should know that we can protect it. Okay, collect data that you can protect. Always remember that. Another term, variable. It's a characteristic that is observable or measurable in every unit of the population. Okay, so examples are class student number, sex, number of siblings, weight, and the height. And then we also have different fields of statistics. So we have here the descriptive and another one inferential. Descriptive statistics deals with the collection and presentation of data and collection of summarizing values to describe its group characteristics. So as you can see, descriptive, all we need to do is to describe the collected data. Okay, while the inferential statistics here, the branch of statistics that uses data from samples to make inferences about the population from which the sample was drawn. Okay, so when it comes to the inferential statistics, we use hypothesis testing. Okay, we use different statistical tools, parametric and non-parametric. And then another one, the population. It consists of all members of a group being studied. It is the collection of all outcomes, responses, measurements, or counts that are of interest. Okay, so when it comes to the population, another term that they are using here is the universe. Okay, so when we are dealing with uh, different studies, of course, we have our population that we set. Okay, so for instance, if you're studying about the um, behavior of the students when it comes to their performance in general mathematics, so your population should be the students who are taking general mathematics. Okay, so let's say the students of pamantasan ng lungsod ng Valenzuela. Okay? Uh, grade 11 students of Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Valenzuela. Then, when it comes to the sample, it's a proportion of the population selected for analysis. So, it's a subset, okay, subgroup of the population. Okay, so let's say grade 11 STEM students, grade 11 ABM students. Okay, it's just a subset of the given population. Now, aside from this, we have parameter and statistic. Okay, so when it comes to parameter, it's a numerical measure that describes characteristics of a population. Okay, so you describe a population. While statistic, okay, so remember it's different from statistics. Statistics is the field, statistic is the description or the characteristic of the sample. Okay, so there's a difference between the two. The statistics is the field, is the statistic without S describes characteristics of a sample. So for instance, for parameter, the population mean IQ of the students of a certain university is 105. Well, for the statistic, the sample mean IQ of 35 students of a certain university is 105. So as you can see here, for parameter, it's for the population, and statistic is for the sample. So we have different symbols that we use when it comes to parameter in statistics. So when we are discussing the mean, we have here the mu for parameter, and for the statistic, that's x bar, and then for the proportion, we have here p for parameter, and then statistic, that's p hat. Well, for the variance, we have your sigma squared, while for the statistic, that is s squared. For the standard deviation, we have your sigma for the parameter and s for the statistic. So let's identify the different types of variables. So we have your qualitative and quantitative. So qualitative or categorical, classified according to some attributes or categories. So it answered the questions what kind. Okay, this yields categorical responses such as yes or no. Okay, so it's more on descriptive. Okay, so for instance, the class, student number, the sex, religion, region of residence. And then for the quantitative or numerical value, it's called as the numerical data. This yields to numerical responses. Okay, whose size are meaningful. So it answers question how much or how many, and it has an actual units of measure. Okay, so the quantitative, we can identify two types of this, which are the discrete and continuous. So when we say discrete, those are the data that can be counted. These produce numerical responses that arise from a counting process. Okay, so it is expressed in whole units. For instance, number of siblings, number of job applicants at Tesla. Another example we have here for continuous. Those are the data that can be measured. This produce numerical responses that arise from measuring. Okay, uncountably infinite. So it involves, of course, decimal values. Okay, so for instance, we have here weight, height, average monthly income of families in Valenzuela City. Okay, so now you try to answer this. Okay, you try to classify whether it is qualitative or quantitative. So if it is quantitative, you identify if it is discrete or continuous. Okay, so you try this. You can pause the video so that you can first identify the answer here for these 5 items. Or uh, you can forward. Okay, you can forward this video to have the correct answers. Okay, correction, I should say that you can forward this video. Okay, since there's a timer here. Okay, let's answer this. Number one, number of employees in a company. So that is quantitative and it is discrete. Okay, so you are counting. Okay, you are using counting here. Okay, and then number two, nationality of tourists visiting the Philippines. So this is qualitative. Okay, it's qualitative. Then number three, the boiling point of the water is 100 degrees Celsius. So obviously it's a quantitative. So we measure this. Since we measure this, this is continuous. Then another one, the average speed of motorboats cruising in Manila Bay every 15 miles per hour. So again, we measure this. This is quantitative continuous. And then for number five, types of government in Asia. So it's obviously qualitative. Okay, it's categorical. Okay, now, what about the levels of measurement? Okay, so the levels of measurement, of course, it involves the uh, variable here, categorical and numerical. Okay, so we can classify them. And also, uh, on the categorical, we have here nominal and ordinal. Okay, and then for the numerical, that's interval, then ratio. Okay, so here in this uh, levels of measurement, of course, the highest among them is the ratio. Okay, so we start with the nominal, the ordinal, the interval, then the ratio. Okay, so what about the nominal scale? Nominal scale, it refers to measurements that serve as the labels to identity rather, items or classes. It is classified into categories and cannot be arranged in any particular order. So always remember, uh, order does not matter here. Okay, and also it given a nominal data, numerical value does don't have a true holds true significance. Right. So for instance, the class student number. Okay, it's merely the identification. Okay, of the students. And then we have here the sex, whether you're male or female, and then color, the music genre, of course, rock, jazz, hip hop music, heavy metal, reggae, or even classical music. So as you can see here, we are just having the categorical, uh, and also the order does not matter here. Okay, while ordinal scale measurements that reflect the rank order of individuals or objects. It can be arranged in some order, but the differences between data values cannot be determined or are meaningless. It does not tell how much is one is different from the other. So as you can see here, when it comes to ordinal scale, so of course order matter here. Okay? Uh, However, the difference between values isn't quantifiable. Okay, so what are the examples? For instance, the class student description. So the freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. Okay, even the hardness of minerals, okay, and the degrees of agreement. Okay, you strongly agree, uh, strongly disagree, and so on. And then we have here the social status. Next one, for the interval scale, the values of the variable can be ranked, and the difference of the values show the distances between the values. It has no true 0 point. True 0 point refers to the absence of the characteristic. So as you can see here, interval scale is under numerical. Okay, so there's a value here, but it does not hold a true 0 point. So meaning, it can go beyond zero. Okay, the values can go beyond zero, or zero has a meaning here. Okay, for instance, we have here the temperature. We all know that you can go beyond zero. Okay, and 0 degrees Celsius has it's a temperature. Okay, there we can feel something there. And then for standardized exam test or exam score, okay, the SAT. So aside from this, we have now the highest level of measurement, which is called as the ratio scale. Okay, the differences of the values show the distances between the values, and also the ratio of values is defined. It has a true 0 point or absolute zero. So meaning zero means zero. Okay, so for instance, the number of siblings, the height, the weight, monthly salary of employees, and the age. Okay, so when it comes to the ratio, and the interval, we can compare this with this situation. For example, if you increase the temperature from 10 to 20 degrees Celsius, it does not mean that it is twice as hot. Okay? The 10 degrees Celsius and the 20 degrees Celsius. But with the ratio scale, the difference between the variables has a meaning, and the ratio between them does as well. For example, if you increase the height from 10 meters to 20 meters, it is twice as tall. Okay, so comparing 10 meters and the 20 meters. Okay, so always remember the ratio scale has a through 0 point. Okay, so if something is zero, it doesn't exist, of course. So if you weigh zero, then your weight doesn't exist. Okay, while the interval scale may have zero, but it's not absolute. Okay, such as the temperatures and even the decibels or the sound intensity. Okay, now let's try to classify the data as nominal, ordinal, interval, or ratio. Okay, so I'll give you again a minute here to identify the answers for items 1 to 8. Or you can forward the video to know the answers. Okay, so let's try to answer here. For number 1, temperature reading at the laboratory, it's a temperature in Celsius. Of course, it's interval. Okay, it's interval. I just want to note also that if we have Kelvin as our as we use it for our temperature, since its reference point is 0, it can go beyond negative values. Kelvin is on the ratio. Okay, but if we're pertaining to generally as the temperature, of course it's interval. Okay, but if it is specific that we discuss, or if the statement declares that it use Kelvin, then it is under ratio. Okay? So always remember that. And then for the position of government official, of course, it's ordinal. So order matter here. And then number 3, ages of nominees in an educational assurance plan. So it's age. So it's numerical. And uh, there's a reference point, okay, of 0. So this is ratio. Then number 4 for the product codes. So it's for the identification of the product. It's just nominal. Okay. Then number 5, letter grades A, B, C, D, or F. Okay. So of course order matter here. A, B, C, D, or F. So as you can see, we can use here, or we can identify this as an ordinal scale. Okay, and then for hair color of women on high school tennis team, so obviously it's nominal under categorical hair color. And then numbers on the shirts of a girls soccer team. So as you can see here, the jersey number is just mere as a classification or identification to a player. Okay, so it's since it's just an identification and order does not matter there, it's nominal. Okay, then lastly, number of milligrams of tar in 28 cigarettes. So that is ratio. Okay, so ratio since it's about weight. Okay, our reference point there or reference value is 0.